So, throughout the majority of my guitar playing career, I have been a big fan of preamp pedals. That is mainly for the fact that I've never had enough money or determination to purchase a proper amp, like a big Marshall Orange, something with some gain built in. And I'm, to be honest with you, fucking lazy. And I always, if I'm going to a show and there's a backline amp there, I will always use it. And I never wanted to rely on my amp to be the core of my sound, to be my gain sound, because then you're either taking it everywhere with you, which is a hassle, or you're hoping that whatever backline amp there can match what your amp does. And in my experience, most backline amps are fine. Fender, Hot Rod, Deluxes, things like that. But I've always wanted to have the core of my sound be my pedals, so that all I have to do is just get a basic, pretty good, pretty standard clean sound, and I can do everything on top. So I've always been a fan of preamp pedals for that fact. And it's always kind of been a chasing the dragon type situation for me. I've never found one that was perfect for me, or that was perfect at what it did. Now, from what I understand, a lot of preamp pedals, sorry for the rambling start, we'll get to the point of this video in a second. A lot of preamp pedals are just kind of like an overdrive circuit made to kind of sound like a Marshall or whatever, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I've owned those pedals. A lot of those pedals are very cool. But I wanted something that felt like an amp, something that reacted like an amp, and something that would take pedals like an amp. Because what I do with my setup is I have a preamp pedal very last in my drive chain that stays always on. And I wanted something that was versatile and something that could, stack up and work for me in a variety of scenarios. And I'd never quite found something that worked for me until I found, and I should have grabbed this out beforehand, the Electronic Audio Experiments Citadel. I'd had the Model FET for a while, which is like their Model T type thing. While the sound of the Model T wasn't perfect for me, the way it reacted was amazing. The kind of literal amp-like feel was something I'd never experienced before on a pedal. So when the Citadel came out, I eventually got around to grabbing one, and which was more of a Marshall thing. And that's from, once again, I don't know if I said this before, Electronic Audio Experiments. And I kind of had that, and the Citadel was almost everything that I wanted. So I was just like, okay, this is it. I'll use the Citadel. This is going to be the core of my sound until Electronic Audio Experiments brings out another preamp pedal. Well, at the beginning of this year, they did just that. This is the Science Amps /EAE Mother Preamp pedal. Now, this was released back in January. I missed that initial drop, and I've been waiting very patiently ever since for them to come back in stock in Australia, because international shipping is fucked. And finally they did, and I was able to grab one. So, this is a pedal based on the preamp of the Mother amps. This is a pedal based on the preamps of the Mother, which is an amp from Science Amps. Science Amps is a very small operation making kind of boutique amps, right? And a lot of people seem to really like them. I've never played one. I obviously don't own one. But the Mother preamp came out, and it sounded like it was exactly what I needed. It's vaguely in the high watt line of family, which I appreciate. High watts are another brand of amps that are very hard to get in Australia. But the thing I liked about it that kind of really drew me to it was obviously John from EAE kind of put this together. And so I knew he could make amp-like, amp-feeling preamp pedals. And the fact that it had two channels, a clean and a dirty channel. And so eventually when my time came, I grabbed one, and here we are. So let's go through some of the technical specifications. You have your two channels, which you change with foot switch there. Channel A is cleaner, more of a pedal platform, riding up when you get into the very high ranges of the gain control, a kind of edge of breakup type thing. Channel B, or channel 2, channel B, kind of takes off from where it left off. The gain really kind of starts around maybe there, and then it just really goes into kind of more full-on distortion from there. Apart from that, we have a shared EQ range, which is your bass, middle, treble, and these are very well-tuned controls. They're kind of, there's enough range to suit everyone, but there's not so much range that you're going to get too many ugly sounds. The kind of whole range could be usable in some certain contexts, for certain people. Obviously, you have your volumes, plenty of volume on tap. And then we have this absence and depth control. And these kind of do similar yet different things. So depth is pre-gain. So it's at the start of the kind of circuit, and it controls low end before going into the gain stages. So if you really want to tighten things up, like I do, you would roll that depth control right off. But if you want to thicken things up a bit, you can pump that up. Maybe if you've got thinner pickups, like single coil Strat pickups, you can bump that depth up a bit. Or if you've got really dark pickups, you can roll it off. Now, the absence happens at the end of the chain, end of the circuit. And it is kind of like I don't know how they describe it. You can go look up the technical manual. It's kind of like high-end information. It's kind of like a depth control in the fact that the more you turn it up, the darker the signal gets. But it's at the end of it's post-gain, so it does something different. And if you turn it all the way all the way down, it adds heaps of kind of upper harmonic content, and all the way down, it's like an active treble boost almost. It really punches through. And to me, favorite knob on the pedal, because I like my sound to be very bright, not too bright, but very bright, like to cut through lots of pick attack. And this absence control does a lot in bringing those kind of sounds out. Now, on the top here, we have some inputs and outputs. You have your input, obviously. This is channel switcher, if you want to change the channels not on the pedal itself. Then we have the two outputs here. So this output is if you're going to run it straight into the front of a clean amp, say. Like if you just had a clean amp and you're like, I want to kind of impart the character of the Mother onto this amp, you'd use that output. This output is if you're going direct into, say, a cab sim or a power amp, or if you're going to plug into the effects return on your amp, you would use that output. And basically what it does is it gives you the full spectrum of what the amp pedal is meant to sound like if you go out of this power amp. I want to recommend the Mark Johnston demo of this pedal, because he explains it a lot better than I think I can. But basically, it's like every amp has its own EQ, even if it's meant to be set flat. And if you pile one EQ, like drastic EQ, on top of another EQ, if you were to use the power amp output, then it would kind of be ridiculous and you'd have to do crazy EQ stuff. So this output here, the normal output, kind of accounts for that, softens the edges and makes it so that the EQ on this thing isn't quite so drastic. There's a great podcast interview with the guy from Science Amps, whose name I cannot remember. I think it's Alex. No Gods, No Master Volumes, where he kind of talks a lot about preamp pedals and kind of, some are designed to go into the front of amps, and so you don't get the full spectrum of what the sound could be, and some are just designed to go into power amps so they don't work so great, and some kind of live in the middle somewhere. It's really good. I would recommend that video and that podcast to kind of get a better explanation. But basically what you need to know, front of amp or direct cab sim power amp. I will be using this. I didn't do it into the front of amp because I don't use amps at home, but with my band, in band rehearsals, I'm running this straight into the front of a Fender amp, and it sounds sick. So you just have to take my word for that. Sure, there'd be another demo out there that would show this going into the front of a clean amp, but for today, we're just going to use the power amp output, and let's get into some sound. So first of all, I'm just going to use this bad boy. I will show with some pedals and stuff later, but we're just going to use this bad boy. And we're just going to go into a cab sim. I'm using the Science Amps cab sims. You can or IRs. You can download them for free on their website. I would recommend. They're quite good. I think I've got a V30 and a creamback with a 57 and a ribbon mic on each one. So we're going to go into that. One thing to mention, I don't touch the volumes much because of the way my setup is here at home. I kind of can't gun or push the volumes too much. Or I'll worry clipping, but just keep in mind that each channel does have a good bit of volume, but the volumes are kind of a bit different for each channel, because channel B compresses a lot more. You have to turn it up because channel A there's not as much distortion. It can seem louder and a bit more full kind of frequency. But yeah, I don't fuck with the volumes too much just because I don't want to clip anything in at home, but plenty of volume on each channel. Nothing to worry about there. So let's get into it. Oh, I'm going to be playing a Telecaster, by the way. All right, so all right, so now that you've just heard the pedal on its own, I want to show the pedal with some other pedals. This takes pedals particularly well for a preamp pedal, very amp-like in the way it responds to pedals. So I wanted to show off an overdrive, and I figured I would show my favorite overdrive, the Halberd. This thing tightens up the channel B, the overdriven channel of the Mother, so well. You know, it can be quite dark without gunning that absence control. But if you throw this in front of it, then it really does a great job of tightening it up. A tube screamer or something would do a similar job, but it does a really good job of kind of tightening it up, and it adds a really cool overdrive character to channel B. Not the same as to channel A, not just the same as channel B. It's like a different thing, which I think is what's so great about the pedal, is you can stack different pedals with different channels and get so many different sounds. And for the fuzz, I'm using the Pariah from God City Instruments. This is like a crazy, highly tuned big muff. They did it in collaboration with End. If you guys want to see a demo of this pedal, let me know as well. I kind of just got it for myself, and I didn't ever really intend on making a video on it. But if you want a demo, let me know and I'll make one. But yeah, so this is like a big muff for the heavier thing. And this sounds so sick running into channel B. Just sounds huge and grimy and filthy. And I could just sit there playing sludge riffs all day with that sound. So yeah, let's hear them. And finally, for all you bass players out there, I should do some bass. I didn't talk about bass initially in the intro bit, but this thing works particularly well on bass. It is tuned to be used for bass. I used it, I ran the bass through it on the intro track, so figured we should get some isolated bass playing. And once again, there's so many different kind of gain ranges and sounds you can find within this pedal when you're running on bass. Particularly if you crank that absence control, you can get some almost like Death from Above 1979 Royal Blood type bass sounds. But then that channel A just sounds so big and clean and fat, but if you push the gain up enough with just the right amount of kind of drive, probably some of the best bass sounds I've ever gotten here in my studio. So yeah, going to be using the same Fender P bass that I used in the demo track, and I'll be using the Science Amps cab sims, the bass cab sims, which for the life of me I cannot remember what they are, microphones or speakers, but look, you can look it up on the website. I'd highly recommend downloading these if you're using cab sims. They're free, and they're very, very good. so that is it. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe if you want to, if you enjoyed the video. Do you have the Science Amps Mother Preamp? What do you think of it? Do you have the real amp? That'd be cool too. What do you think of it? Do you like it? I love it. I think some of the sounds I'm getting with the preamp and the cab sims I got off the website is some of the best sounds I've gotten in here now. I feel like I'm fully kind of... Because I hate using modelers. I've tried to use modelers in the past, and I just hate being chained to a desktop thing. I like to see what I'm doing and turn knobs and have a very tactile approach to making my guitar sounds. And so using like a Line 6, and also modelers aren't practical for live use for me. So using a modeler is never something that I've been super into. So now that this is here, I feel like my setup at home, as far as guitar tones go, got a big upgrade. But yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. It means the world. Yeah, let me know if you have the Science Amps Preamp, the Mother Preamp, or if there's any other preamp pedal that you swear by and really love. But apart from that, thank you for watching, and